All right, welcome back to another episode 34 of the Two Plane Sports Podcast. As you can see, Brum is not here this week, but we're still going to go at it. This episode is going to be the preview to the Western Carolina game 2. And from as of right now, Oklahoma's only afternoon game, unfortunately. So hopefully it's a good one. I don't think there's going to be too much to worry about, but let's go into what Western Carolina is bringing in real quick, and then we'll go into Oklahoma and what we think we could expect out of the Sooners this weekend. So there's not much to really say about Western Carolina. They didn't have a great season last year. They did play in the fall like many FCS schools, but got it quickly canceled after 3 games. In the spring, they played their season, and their head coach at the time got canned after the spring season, and they have a brand new head coach who's been there less than 6 months, and a brand new quarterback who as of now seems to be their best offensive player since he led them to a comeback almost victory last week where they lost to Eastern Carolina by 3 points. From what I read, and a game that became very close where they really could have taken it to overtime, but unfortunately they don't have Gabe as their kicker, so they got missed to send it to overtime.
Their kicker needs to eat some chicken and pasta for breakfast, just like Gabe. It's the
And
key.
get a mustache. Just that's where the powers come from. So you want to kick us off, Brandon? What do you think we can see out of the Sooner offense this year or this weekend?
This weekend, it's like we talked about before we started recording. If the starters are in the game by the third quarter because it's close or even competitive enough to where the starters need to be in, something went horribly wrong. I know we said last week that we should have smoked Tulane, and a lot of us feel like we still should have. That was just a weird week. There's a lot of things going on in week one that I don't really know the answers to, and I don't think a lot of us do, as far as why we played 31 players on defense, the whole Andrew Graham situation, Drake Stoops not playing. It was a weird week with a lot of question marks. This week, um, Western Carolina is not even Tulane level. Like they're bad. If the starters are in the game in the second half, other than Coach Riley just feels like let's just keep this momentum rolling for like one drive in the third quarter or something like that. Something went horribly wrong.
Yeah, and I think at this point too, if it's anywhere near competitive as it was Tulane, then we should just go ahead and hang out with Washington because they lost to an FCS school and it's just not acceptable. But yeah, I completely agree. We really shouldn't have any issues with it. I think this week should have really been where they done their tryout and experimenting with all the rotating, just because I mean, even the talent that we have sitting on the bench, third string, maybe that's when a competitive game would be against an FCS school like Western Carolina, who's really struggling right now, having everything brand new to them, really. So,
Even then, it
um,
shouldn't be because the problem is our third stringers are probably still borderline 3 star. Probably most of them are 3 stars or borderline 4 stars. Where at Western Carolina, I'd venture to bet they don't have a single 3 star on their team. Let
you're,
alone they may not have 2 stars on their team. Who knows what the team's even made up of?
yeah, I mean, you're probably right, but luckily we're past Tulane. I think that was definitely a learning experience. Hopefully, like you said, it's just a first game jitters thing. But I think the biggest thing I'm going to be looking out for, and I don't expect Spencer to make mistakes this week just because he is just too talented to do so at this point versus a team like Western Carolina. But if there are just any mental errors where it's clearly a ball that he could have made completed the pass, or even if it was close to interception, like things happen. You're not gonna read the defense perfectly. You're not gonna throw the perfect ball every time. But if it's a constant thing, I'm sure Lincoln's probably also watching out for that too, because you don't want your starting quarterback making those kind of errors once you get into the thick of the season when we're gonna be playing a Texas who right now seems like, I mean, it's only game one, but Sark put it in the balls of put the ball in the hands of their star player and Bijan Robinson, and we can't be playing from behind if they're going to be as dominant as some people expect them to be after this week.
The week one stuff. Unless you're Alabama, because Alabama is Alabama, you can't. I don't think you can buy into anything good or bad after 1 week of the season, just because. Again, like unless you're Alabama, maybe even like no, Alabama is the exception. I was gonna say Georgia and Clemson because they played each other, but I think those teams are a lot better than what they displayed on Saturday too. 10-3. I know they're both really good teams, really good defenses. So like it should have been a little low scoring, but 10-3 is like ridiculous. Um, so on the whole Texas hype train thing, it's yeah, they did. They did. They looked fantastic against a team against Louisiana, who I thought was better than that. I thought they were going to give a game almost. Obviously, that didn't happen. Texas looked really good, but that's the thing. It's week one. Texas can come out against Kansas, or not Kansas, but Texas Tech or something, and look horrible, and then everyone's going to forget about that. The week one, you can't be too high, you can't be too low.
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying Texas is going to be a powerhouse or they're going to be threatening for the Big 12 at all. That's not where I'm going. But imagine playing a team that's got a running back like that. I mean, it's not just Texas fans anymore thinking Bijan's one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah.
It's the national media, people that know college football. They've seen him as a top running back, and last week he put it on display. So you don't want to be playing from behind when that guy can just pound the ball down the middle. And really, if we have a hard time against them, it's going to be tough. So we want to make sure we're staying ahead. And going back to what I was actually saying, we want to, if Spencer's going to be making mental mistakes, we either Lincoln's going to bench him and pretty much a redo of last year's Texas game, and hopefully it gets him to snap out of whatever funk he's in, or Caleb's going to take his job. Either way, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it is what jump started him last year, but this year, I mean, I don't think it's going to come to that point. I think these next 3 weeks against, granted, lesser opponents, all three next weeks, but Spencer should look like the guy that going into the season we thought we were going to have. I still think we're going to have. I think there's a couple OU fans that I text and talk to and hitting the panic button and stuff like that already, and I just think it's ridiculous. I'm a huge Spencer guy, you know that. But I agree. If he's back to Jacob, I'm getting lost here. But if he does, if he's making some poor decisions against Western Carolina, or I don't know. I think his poor decisions will. I mean, it's going to be a poor decision, but it's going to be because he knows Western Carolina is bad, and he knows he's far more talented than anybody on that team. And the only thing I can see him doing that would hurt him or look bad is if someone's triple covered and he's just like, hey, it's Western Carolina, I'm just gonna whip it in here and it's gonna work out anyway. Because you're right. If we're say we're winning 28-0, and it's Spencer's in the game still, and he whips it into triple coverage, and even if we catch it, and it's caught for first down, a touchdown, whatever, that's something I imagine Lincoln Riley's gonna be like, no, because if you do that stuff against a good team, it's you're going to turn the ball over. You're going to, at the very best case, it's going to be knocked down.
Yeah, you're just not putting the team in a winning position at that point as a quarterback. I mean, and not just Spencer too. The entire offense was really pretty suspect, especially in the second half last week. And I think really something else we're going to look at. I mean, a couple updates real quick is the last week after the game in Lincoln's presser, he did mention that Theo is going to be out at least half the season. So the wide receivers we saw last week are really what we've got. And they're not bad at all. I don't know what it was that just put the entire offense in a funk really last weekend in the second half, but we're probably not going to see him at least until after the Texas game, and probably not even till I would guess November at the earliest, just so that he can be fully healthy and ready to go.
The only possible exception on a receiver return is the Drake Stoops thing, because we don't really know what's going on with that situation. I'm curious to see if he's also a scratch this week. Then I think if he's a scratch this week, it's like we need to be like, okay, what is going on with Drake Stoops?
Yeah, that would also be concerning if it's an ineligibility thing with grades, or which at this point would have been found out. You'd think, but yeah, definitely something else to keep an eye on at Sooner fans. I mean, Drake Stoops he's always produced. I mean, he's never been like the star receiver, but he's a reliable guy in the
he was one of Spencer's most trusted targets last year. Yeah,
yeah.
We want to see him back. I'm curious to see, because I mean, Brian Darby, I think, is the guy who was playing last week in a role that I think we all expected that to be Drake Stoops. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And then our offensive line, I think we're gonna see Andrew Rame legitimate time this week. I didn't notice him last week during the game, but I guess he did play a couple snaps late in the second half. So now I would expect him to be running the offensive line as a center for a few of the first team possessions in the first half. And hopefully that's something that helps with all the mental errors, because last week was tough seeing all those false starts. I don't know. What do you think the offensive line can do? And hopefully it's better.
I mean, luckily they didn't. I can't think of too many plays. I mean, yeah, the false starts were annoying, and that's a drive killer against good teams and against late in the game. I mean, you can't have dumb penalties, especially at home. Like, there's no excuse to false start. The crowd's not rocking against you. You're not. There's no excuse at home to commit a false start penalty. But I lost my train of thought here. Yeah, well, yeah, just no false starts. Damn it, yeah, go ahead. I lost it. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the offense should look much better this week. We've got, Spencer hopefully fixes whatever mistakes he saw. He watched the film that was necessary for him. And I think the offensive line should be much improved with regards to all the mental errors, because, again, just not acceptable. But moving
So
up.
I was gonna, yeah, so like, yeah, like, did Wayne Morris play very much week one?
It's hard to tell
It
sometimes just
is
because
like
they
I
move so
don't.
fast.
I'm curious as to, like, if we go back and look at this week one game 6 weeks from now, I wonder how much of that team is going to. I mean, obviously Spencer's going to be that guy. He's going to be there. Hazelwood's going to be there. Marquise Hayes on the line's going to be there. There's Kennedy Brooks, Eric Gray. You have your guys who are set. But I don't know. That week one was weird. I'm curious. And this week, we should look like monsters. And I don't know if the O line. I don't know if we can be like, oh, all our problems are solved because they look dominant against Western Carolina. Because
It's just Western Carolina.
yeah,
We expect, just like we expected, to just destroy Tulane, which unfortunately didn't happen. And again, no one will ever know the reason why other than the players and the coaches. But this week shouldn't even be a question. If there's ever a competitive point in the game, I think a lot more fans will be freaking out about
oh,
this
I'll be
team.
pushing the panic button next week if it's like I said. If the starters are in the game in the third quarter, unless it's by choice, like if we're winning 41-0 and Lincoln decides to roll with the starters, first of all, that in itself is dumb. But if he wants to give one more drive or see something else, that's the only exception to if the starters are in the game. Because if the starters are in the game in the third quarter because it's 24-14, it's like, gosh, something's horribly wrong.
Yeah. So moving over to the defense now, like Brandon mentioned earlier in the podcast, there was a heck of a lot of rotation in the entire defense, not just the secondary. If I read it correctly, I think Rich said he rotated a total of 31 players the entire game, which is a lot. I mean, if you look at it in the view of an NFL roster, I know it's not the same, but that would literally be your entire defensive squad being rotated in and out. And obviously, college has a lot more players at their disposal, but 31, like, you're not going to find a group of guys that are going to gel together and dominate if you're just bringing them in and out. Now, I think we all know as fans, like, Grinch will rotate players to keep them fresh. But if you're in a game, you've just got to find the guys that are going to be your go-to. Who are the DBs that are going to stop and deflect a pass? Who are going to be the guys in the defensive line who are going to, stress the quarterback out and make him just throw the ball and hope that our defensive backs can just jump the route or knock the ball down again. I mean,
in week one, the only guys who really showed that, I think Billy Bowen had a hell of a game out there in the slot corner spot, and Isaiah Thomas. I mean, he looked really, really good again. Reggie Grimes also looked pretty good. But yeah, you're right. There's no reason to rotate 31 guys. I think, like we're talking offline before we started this, I think these first 4 weeks, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of that just because I think this coaching staff knows just on talent alone we can get by in these first 4 weeks rotating and figuring it out. But I mean, I'd like to see it get set sooner than that, but I can see the first 4 weeks being just figuring out what we're going to do for the stretch of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm hoping that by the time Nebraska rolls around, I know it's more so a namesake game where it's exciting because of rekindling an old rivalry, but the actual game is not going to be very good more than likely. So I'm hoping by the time we get to the second half of Nebraska, we just have a solidified, this is, or at least the coaches know, like, these are the guys we're going to roll with through conference play. But yeah, I think going through the first 4 games more than likely is also very doable, just because our first conference game is West Virginia, and they don't seem to be on a good trajectory so far this
They
season.
lost to the Texas killer.
Yeah, they did.
Maryland's out there claiming all the Big 12.
Yep. But yeah, I think hopefully this week Billy Bowman really shows out again. I mean, I've been high on him. I was a big Reggie Grimes guy when he first made his commitment to Oklahoma. I think those two hopefully do big things this weekend to really solidify their spot in the rotation. And hopefully Billy Bowman just solidify a spot as a starting nickel. I think that guy is too talented. He's too athletic to just not. I mean, Jeremiah Cradell is really going to have to show out this week and get a pick or two. Did
Jeremiah Cradell play last week? Like, I can't. There's, I mean, he's probably one of the 31 guys who eventually got in there at some point. But like, I need to go back and rewatch the whole defensive thing because it was.
There's just so much rotation
out there earlier than we thought he was going. Then we were going to see him. Clayton Smith out there earlier than we thought we were going to see him. It's. I don't know if we truly don't know what our identity on defense is going to be yet, or if we just wanted to get these guys real minutes, real action.
And I mean, to your point about not noticing Cradell, I didn't notice Latrell was in for a little bit until I can't remember what point of the game it was, but he was lined up on the outside against a wide receiver and he just absolutely smoked him. It seemed like the guy almost lost balance. Yeah, he didn't, but it was a pretty good hit there on the line.
That was cool to see, especially from a freshman out there just not caring, balling. And as bad as we looked week one, because I mean, trust me, that was not the game anybody wanted to see. The defense still forced 3 takeaways.
They did, and like we mentioned before we started, that when their name was called or their side of the ball was called, they showed up in the last series.
It was the difference in. I mean, this first game of the season felt eerily similar to the Kansas State game last year. In terms of which we came out on fire, or I mean, this year we didn't come out on fire, but we had the huge leads. Last year we came out on fire, beating the hell out of Kansas State, third and fourth quarter, figured out how to play and end up losing the game. This last week, we built a huge lead, 40-22, late in the third. Game should have been over at that point. Unfortunately, it wasn't. We let them crawl all the way back, but like you said, when it hit the fan, when they recovered the onside kick, when it was do or die, the defense that's what separates, I think, this year from last year, hopefully.
Yeah. I don't know. My big takeaway so far from the team is I'm actually super confident in the defense. I think not only the rotation made it a big impact on that side of the ball, but maybe even a lack of effort. I mean, defense is all effort. Obviously, you need skill involved, but if you're not putting in the effort, you're not gonna. That's,
I think, the thing that we need to pay attention to the most is this week against Western Carolina, a team that, unfortunately, I think even our players know, like, they're not stupid. Like, they know, okay, we're night and day better than this team. We're leap years in front of them. I hope they're not out there coasting on defense, offense, because I can see it happening. You know what I mean?
Just
not trying like, oh, whatever, we'll just do whatever we want. It's gonna work. And if they start doing that, I hope Western Carolina punches one in on them, because I promise you, if Western Carolina punches a touchdown on them, they're going to be like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this can't happen again.
Yeah, I hope we get to see angry Lincoln if that happens, because that's inexcusable. Unless the only time it's okay for them to score a touchdown is in the second half, when we've got the backups to the backups to the backups playing.
If it's 54-3 or 54-0 in the fourth quarter and they score with 8 seconds left, no one's going to be like, damn, we're horrible on defense.
I don't think many people are going to be there to watch that last second touchdown, to be completely honest, but it'll be a fun game. I mean, it's our true first home game, I guess, the real home opener or
on
whatever.
Sports.com, we are 1-0 on the road. We're road warriors.
I guess that's good. Great road win last week by the Sooners, and first home
hostile
game
environment
this week.
We held on.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a packed stadium. I know last week it was tough to sell it out and short staff, but this is the
first time since 2019 that it's full go, 100%. Yeah, it's
almost 2 years.
It'll be fun to see it rocking again Saturday. I can't wait.
Yeah, the Palace will be exciting, and hopefully a lot of you guys are going to get to go. I think Brandon is going to be at the game, so it'll be an exciting one, at least for the first 3 quarters. Hopefully no longer than that, but
hopefully no longer than 2 quarters. I hope we see Caleb Williams the entirety of the third. Not even the entirety of the third. Give him 3 drives, and then if he goes if he comes into the second half and we're up 31-0 or something going into the halftime, 37-0, whatever it is going to be, and then Caleb Williams gets 3 drives, punches 3 touchdown drives in, just yank it, get out of there, put in Ralph, whatever his name is, and just Weatherman Jay is the player to watch this week.
Oh yeah.
Weatherman Jay, Todd Hudson, Jalil Farouk, Cody Jackson.
It will be fun to see all the younger guys.
Yes,
that's like a Jalil and Cody Jackson, because I think Cody got some playing time last week, but I don't think Jalil
really did. See him out there, and it was surprising. Like the Brian Darby playing situation was, I think it caught me off guard for sure. I did not see Brian Darby being that high on the depth chart. I thought for sure it'd be Cody Jackson or Jalil Farouk. Like they're next in line. Obviously, Mario Williams was the first freshman up, and I think we all anticipated that to be the case. But
yeah,
I did not expect Darby to start over Jackson or Farouk.
It might be just simply they want to keep just for sure you have your red shirt. Like we're not gonna like risk you being injured in any way. Who knows? But yeah, it is surprising they didn't get much playing time, but we'll probably see them this week against Western Carolina and get to watch them show out this week. And have a good game, hopefully, when Caleb Williams is at the helm, kind of give us a glimpse of what our future is going to be after this year. Because I think it's pretty unless something catastrophic happens to Spencer, this is probably the last year we're going to see him in a Sooner uniform, I believe.
Yeah, he should turn it on, have the year we want him to have, and he'll be a first-round pick.
Oh yeah. Cool. Well, do you have any final thoughts on the Sooners or what we can expect from them?
Weatherman Jay, it's his time.
That's the guy.
I hope he has a huge game. It's impossible not to love that guy.
He is entertaining on Twitter. I'll give him that. Hopefully he does have a good game so he can post a lot of highlight reels on there along his weather forecast.
Take a break from weather and post his highlights.
Cool. Well, thank you guys all for watching. Like Brandon said, keep an eye out for Weatherman Jay. And make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button, leave a comment, share the videos if you're enjoying what we're putting out. We have a lot more coming. And like Brum said in our last video, keep an eye out for our new series that is going to be starting soon with the NFL, where we're going to be covering the Sooners and the NFL, kind of highlighting what their upcoming matchups are going to be and talking about their performances, as it's always fun to talk about guys like Baker and Kyler and CD and Jalen, if you want to claim him as a Sooner. I know Bama still claims him as part of the Tide.
That huge extension. Well, that was today, right?
It was today. It was this morning.
Yeah, you got the big September 7th. So today. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that series. It will be coming out soon. So we'll have a lot of fun talking about the Sooners and all levels of the game. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.